Some places in this world hold on to their secrets the way the swamp holds on to the dead. Quiet, patient, forever. The Louisiana Bayou is one of those places. Spanish moss hangs like funeral shrouds from cypress trees that have stood for centuries, watching. The water sits black and still, but nothing in the swamp is ever truly still. Things move beneath the surface, things wait, and sometimes, if you're unlucky enough, those things follow you home. Tonight, I'm bringing you 3 stories from 3 different men who dared the Cajun swamp and came back changed, or almost didn't come back at all. These aren't campfire tales dressed up with cheap thrills. These are real accounts, the kind that make your hands go cold when you hear them, the kind that make you triple-check your locks before bed. So, turn the lights up a little, and whatever you do, don't go near the water after dark.
I've lived my whole life on the edge of the Atchafalaya Basin. My granddaddy used to say the swamp has a heartbeat, slow, deep, older than anything you can name. Grew up fishing those waters before I could ride a bike. I know every inlet, every cypress knee, every bend in Catahoula Slough like I know the lines on my own hand. Or at least I thought I did. This happened 3 years ago, late October. The kind of October where the air finally breaks from the summer heat and the nights come down cool and smoky smelling. My buddy Dre and I went out for an overnight catfish run, nothing we hadn't done 100 times. We put the flatboat in just before sunset, ran the trot lines out, and settled in to wait with a cooler of beer and a thermos of coffee. By 10 o'clock, the night was dead quiet. That's the thing people don't understand about real swamp quiet. It's not peaceful. It's heavy, like the whole world is holding its breath. Then, Dre grabbed my arm. He didn't say anything, just pointed out past the bow. I looked, and at first I thought it was a log floating at the surface. There was something out there in the darkness, maybe 40 feet off, long, low, not moving with the current, moving against it, slow and deliberate. I killed the lantern. Whatever it was, it stopped. We sat there in absolute black for what felt like 5 minutes. My heart was slamming against my ribs. Dre finally leaned close to my ear and whispered, "What is that?" I shook my head. I didn't know, and I've hunted and fished this swamp for 30 years. I switched on my flashlight. The beam hit the water, and there was nothing there, just flat black water. Dre exhaled. I heard him start to say something, and then the boat lurched hard, like something massive had bumped the hull from underneath. Not a gator nudge, this was a shove, the kind that nearly put us both over the side. We didn't talk about it, we just cranked the motor and went straight to shore. Here's what stayed with me, and I want you to sit with this for a second. When we got to shore, and I shone my light back out over the water, there were ripples spreading in a wide circle about where we'd been sitting. Slow, deliberate ripples moving outward from a single point. And in the center of those ripples, just barely visible at the edge of my beam, 2 pale points of light, like eyes just at the waterline, watching us go. I went back the next morning in daylight, found our trot lines. Every single one of them had been stripped clean. Not caught fish that slipped off, stripped. Whatever was on those hooks had been taken, hooks bent back straight like they were nothing. My granddaddy used to tell us about something the old Cajuns called le hodara, the prowler, something that lives in the deep channels of the Atchafalaya where no fisherman goes twice. He said it doesn't chase you, it just lets you know it knows you're there, that you're in its water, that it could take you anytime it wanted. I never believed him. I believe him now. I still fish the slough, but I don't run lines overnight anymore, and I haven't been back to that particular bend since. Some lessons you only need to learn once.
I drive Highway 182 for work, freight trucking, running produce loads between Opelousas and Morgan City 3 nights a week. I know every mile of that route in my sleep. The long, straight stretch through the Teche country, the bridge at Centerville, and the part that always makes me grip the wheel a little tighter, the old Oak Road bypass, where the road cuts through about 6 miles and nothing but swamp and black water canals on either side. There's no cell signal on that stretch, no houses, no lights except your own headlights and whatever the moon gives you. Most nights it's fine. I crank up the radio, drink my coffee, and roll through in 12 minutes flat. But last February, on a Tuesday night around 2 in the morning, I came around the bend at mile marker 7, and my headlights fell on a woman standing in the road. I hit the brakes, heart in my throat. She was just standing there in the middle of the lane, not moving, facing away from me. She had on a white dress, thin like a summer dress, and it was 43 degrees out. Long, dark hair hanging loose down her back. No car, no nothing, just standing there alone on a road in the middle of the swamp at 2 in the morning. Now I want you to understand something. I'm not a man who scares easy. 6'2", 240 pounds, drove these roads for 11 years, but every single hair on my arm stood up. I pulled to a stop maybe 30 feet from her and rolled my window down. "Ma'am, you all right? You need help?" She didn't turn around. She didn't answer. She didn't move. I reached for my radio, figuring I'd call it in, and that's when she turned her head. Not her body, just her head. Turned it slow, all the way over her left shoulder to look back at me. Too far, the kind of turn that should have been impossible with a human neck. And she smiled. I didn't see the smile clearly. My lights were behind her, so her face was mostly shadow, but I saw the teeth. Too many of them, too white, too wide. I floored it. Didn't think, didn't process. My foot just went down and the rig lurched forward. I closed my eyes for half a second because I thought I was going to hit her, but when I opened them, the road was empty. She was just gone. I blew through that stretch doing 90 in a 45, and I didn't slow down until I hit the lights of Patterson. I pulled over at a gas station, shaking so bad I spilled my coffee all over the cab. Sat there for 20 minutes before I could make myself move again. I called my cousin Remy, who grew up in that part of St. Mary Parish, told him what I saw. He didn't say a word for a long time. Then he said, "The White Lady of the Teche. People around here call her La Blanche. You don't stop for her, Cyrus. You never stop for her." He said she appears to travelers on that road, and the ones who get out of their vehicle to help her, they don't always make it to where they were going. I asked him what she was. He said nobody knows exactly. Old-timers say she's been seen on that road since before there was a road, since the old Spanish trail that ran through there before the highway. Said she's something that wears the shape of a woman, the way a trap wears the shape of something harmless. I still drive that route. Gotta pay the bills, but I don't roll my window down on Oak Road anymore, and I don't stop for anything that's standing in the road in the dark. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care how much help it seems to need. I keep my eyes forward, and I drive. There's a reason the old Cajuns said never to offer your hand to something in the swamp before you're sure it has a shadow.
I want to start by saying I'm not the kind of person who usually talks about this stuff. I'm a diesel mechanic, practical guy. I like things I can see and touch and fix with my hands. My mom is the one who lights candles for the saints and leaves offerings on the back porch, not me. At least, not before this happened. Last summer, I was helping a buddy of mine, T-Paul, clean out his camp on the little Cajun Bayou. His grandmother had passed in the spring and left the old fishing camp to him, and it had been sitting empty for a year. We spent the first day hauling out decades of accumulated junk, old nets, broken coolers, rotting furniture, the usual. Then T-Paul found a locked box under the floorboards of the back room. Old tin box, padlocked, heavy for its size. We busted the lock with a hammer. Inside was a collection of strange objects, a doll made of Spanish moss and chicken bones, some old photographs, a small cloth bag tied with red thread, and a jar of murky brownish water sealed with wax. There were also a few folded papers with writing on them in French that neither of us could read. T-Paul thought it was cool. Old folk magic stuff, Cajun root work, he said. His grandmother had been known for it in the community. We left most of it in the box, but T-Paul kept one of the photographs, an old sepia portrait of a young woman we didn't recognize. I thought nothing of it. That night we slept at the camp. I woke up at 3 in the morning because of a sound, a slow, rhythmic knocking on the underside of the floor, like something tapping from below. Our camp was on stilts over the bayou, and I figured it was maybe a turtle or some debris bumping in the current. I rolled over and tried to sleep. But then the knocking changed. It became more deliberate, patterned, like a hand. 3 knocks, pause. 3 knocks, pause. I sat up. The camp was dark, except for the moonlight coming through the screen windows. The knocking stopped. I looked over at T-Paul's bunk. He was asleep, breathing slow and regular. I got up, went to the back door that opened to the dock, and shone my flashlight down into the water under the camp. There was a face looking up at me from just below the surface of the water. A woman's face, eyes open, hair floating out around her head like a dark halo, pale, completely still, looking directly up at me with an expression I cannot describe accurately to you. It was somewhere between grief and fury, and something older than both. I slammed the door. I'm not ashamed to tell you I didn't sleep again that night. I sat in the corner with every light in the camp on until sunrise. In the morning, I told T-Paul. He went quiet. He took the photograph out of his pocket, the one he'd kept from the box, and he held it up. He asked me if that was the face I'd seen in the water. I looked at the photograph for a long time. The young woman in the portrait had the same dark hair, the same eyes. Something about the set of the jaw was identical. We put everything back in the tin box, every object, every photograph. T-Paul sealed it back up since we'd broken the lock. We drove to the bayou that afternoon and threw it in the deepest point we knew, where the current runs fast and pulls things down into the silt and doesn't let them back up. Nothing happened that night. I went home the next day, but before I left, I asked an older woman in the community, Miss Odette, who had known T-Paul's grandmother, what we might have disturbed. She crossed herself twice before she answered. She said T-Paul's grandmother was a traiteur, a healer, but that some of the things she kept weren't for healing. They were for binding, keeping something bound to a place, to an object, so it couldn't move freely through the world. She said the box was a prison, and she looked at us with dead serious eyes and said, "You pray it stayed in that box when you threw it in." I didn't ask her what would happen if it didn't. I drive past the little Bayou turnoff sometimes for work. I never go down that road. I keep my eyes on the highway, and I keep moving. T-Paul sold the camp that fall. Neither of us has talked about that weekend since. Some things aren't meant to be found, and some things, once disturbed, don't go quietly back to sleep.
3 stories, 3 men, 3 separate encounters with something ancient and patient that lives in the water and the dark of the Louisiana Bayou. They don't know each other. They've never compared notes, but if you asked any one of them whether they believe the swamp holds something that cannot be explained, you wouldn't have to wait long for the answer. The bayou doesn't ask for your belief. It doesn't need it. It's been there before your grandfather's grandfather drew his first breath, and it will be there long after all of us are gone. Whatever lives in it, whatever watches from the dark water, has been watching for a very long time. Sleep well and stay away from the water.